How do you get your resin so clear is the number one question I get mainly out in public when people visit my table. Occasionally, I have gotten that question online as well, but for the most part, y'all, I really don't do anything special. I use certain brands that I have tested to know they don't turn yellow or haven't turned yellow on any of the projects that I've had. Um, and for the number one thing I feel like I do is I read the instructions. And when it comes to like bubbles and stuff, they kind of let you know what to do with for bubbles and things like that. So the only thing I do is I do warm up my resin with a bath, a warm bath before using. I let it sit in there 15 minutes or so. Then I will bring them to the garage, which is where I work out of my garage, which is pretty warm. So I think the temperature here right now definitely factors in. But even then, I was still getting clear resin as long as, um, I warmed it up. And then, so I use a silicone cup. I don't put it on a scale or anything. I mark it like I think the most I would make at one time is going to be 400 mLs, which is about 14 ounces if I'm not mistaken. And that means I'm going to mark it at the 200 and the 400. I usually pour my resin A or my part A first, and then I pour my part B, and then I'll get my tool as you see, and I will get my little silicone tool to go into my drill. I'm sorry. And then I go about it about 5 minutes while I'm listening to my sermon or something, or whatever. So nothing special, no degas or anything, and that's not going against anyone who uses that. I'm just letting you know what I do. And to get my resin clear. Now, I don't know if it's the resin that I use. I use craft resin for the most part. That's my number one go to. Um, I also use J Diction. I feel it works the same as far as, getting rid of bubbles or not dealing with them at all. And I think I use some other brands I'm not quite, a big fan of. But I think I use less resin epoxy too. And I think it's exactly the same as far as like bubbles because I don't really deal with bubbles. The only time I've really dealt with bubbles is in the wintertime. You do deal with bubbles in the wintertime, usually around that second batch. So if I'm doing two batches and I don't rewarm the resin up, then yeah, when I get to that second batch, I'm going to be dealing with bubbles as the temperature drop and stuff. And I already went through this over the winter time of being in the garage. So, with that being said, that's pretty much the only time I don't really deal with it. As you can see, even in the video, as I'm mixing, because this is at real time, a little bit sped up, obviously, but yeah, as you can see now, it doesn't even have any bubbles in it. I do believe the part B is what brings the bubbles, unless it's just mixing them is where you see it. Because you can see some big bubbles once I add part B to A. But other than that, I'm mixing for about 5 minutes. As you see, going around in circles, and I think you can tell. You can see if there's a um, what is it called? Like a film in it. And at first, it might have looked clear, but it wasn't clear. It definitely has, it's darker, and so you look for that too as well, the to clearness. And as I'm mixing around, I do kind of my petals obviously will be getting scraping the sides of the silicone cup or whatever, and that's pretty much all I do. I do have my little level. I usually try to make sure the cup is level before pouring because I don't use measure by volume, or I don't use the a scale or anything. And really, y'all, that's really it. And as far as popping any bubbles once I pour, because that's when I will kind of see bubbles. I use alcohol, especially if I'm doing decals. When I'm doing decals or anything like that, I'm almost always going to see bubbles. Um, but they easily go away. Like I said, I spray my little alcohol, and that'd be a wrap on that. So Yeah, I don't do anything special really. This is all. That's all the tools I use is my drill, my silicone cup, and my silicone mixer. That's it. That's all. And then warm water and a good temperature in the garage. And when I say good temperature, I'm saying it's hot as hell. Hopefully, I don't get flagged for that. But yeah, y'all, that's about it. That's all I do. So hopefully this video was helpful for you. Again, I don't even know if it's just a brand. I feel like you can do whatever is better for you. I just felt like I wanted to answer the question. I'm sorry, of what I do, and because it really is simple, and I don't know if I mess with other resin if it won't be as simple as this. But yeah, y'all, that's it. That's all. Good. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, and subscribe, please. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.